Long before the roar of modern stadiums, long before Messi or Ronaldo, and even before the first soccer ball was ever stitched in England, a different kind of football was already being played. It had rules. It had goals. It had teams. And it was more than just a sport. It was a statement of civilization, power, and cultural pride. Welcome to the world of Cuju, literally, kickball. A game born over 2,000 years ago in ancient China. Forgotten by many, but remembered in stone, silk, and scrolls, Cuju is arguably the oldest version of football in recorded human history. This is the untold story of Cuju, the first football in history. The story of Cuju begins in the Warring States period, around 300 BCE, in the kingdom of Qi, one of the many rival states vying for control over ancient China. In the ancient military city of Linzi, generals and soldiers practiced a peculiar drill, keeping a leather-stuffed ball airborne using their feet. No hands. Only legs, chest, shoulders, and head. What started as a military exercise soon became something more. The first written record of Cuju appears in the historical text Zhang Guosu, or Strategies of the Warring States. It describes a form of ball kicking used to keep soldiers fit and battle-ready. But why did they invent this game? The answer lies in the brutality of war. It's easy to imagine a game like Cuju fading away into obscurity as the chaos of war gave way to centralized rule. But something remarkable happened in the Han Dynasty. Instead of vanishing, Cuju evolved. Emperor Wu of Han wasn't just a ruler, he was a visionary. Known for expanding the empire's borders and promoting Confucianism, he also had a deep appreciation for physical strength and personal discipline. His court wasn't just a place of bureaucrats and scholars, it became a cradle of sport. Historical records tell us that the emperor himself held Cuju matches in the imperial gardens, using the game to entertain foreign diplomats, nobles, and royal guests. Some matches featured over 20 players per side, with roles assigned based on skill, speed, and even social rank. And this is where Cuju began to represent something more than fitness. In a society obsessed with harmony, yin and yang, heaven and earth, Cuju was seen as a perfect metaphor for life. Players learned balance, precision, cooperation, and humility. For the Han elite, Cuju wasn't just a sport, it was training for the soul. In the Warring States period, physical endurance, balance, and agility meant life or death. Cuju helped build all three. It trained soldiers to stay light on their feet and sharpened their instincts. The ball, stuffed with feathers or hair, was about 30 centimeters in diameter and weighed far less than today's soccer ball, allowing for fast and acrobatic play. Yet even then, Cuju was more than training. It was entertainment, ritual, and identity. By the time the Han Dynasty rose to power in 206 BCE, Cuju had exploded in popularity. To master Cuju was to master the body. Elite players trained daily, not just by kicking the ball, but by running intricate drills, meditating for focus, and learning advanced breathing techniques borrowed from Taoist philosophy. Physical training emphasized light-footedness, like the movements in Tai Chi, allowing players to glide across the field. We even have records of specialized Cuju masters, known as Qiu Shang, who taught footwork patterns the way a martial arts master teaches kata. One such technique was the flying swallow kick, where players performed an aerial spin, striking the ball midair with the outside of the foot, a move that wouldn't look out of place in a World Cup highlight reel today. Balls, too, evolved. In the early Han period, they were stuffed with feathers. But by the Tang Dynasty, they had a rubber bladder, much like modern balls. These were hand-stitched, often by palace craftsmen, and painted with dragons or phoenixes, symbols of power and rebirth. Under Emperor Wu of Han, Cuju went from battlefield sport to palace pastime. The emperor, known for promoting martial arts and physical discipline, embraced Cuju as a symbol of harmony between strength and elegance. Royal courts began building designated Cuju fields, known as Juchong, with walls, goals, and spectators. Some were open air, while others were enclosed to accommodate indoor play. The game evolved. It had referees. It had uniforms. It had fans. As Cuju trickled down from the courts into the common streets, it began to shape Chinese society in subtle ways. In the cities of Luoyang, Chang'an, and Kaifeng, Cuju wasn't just a sport, it was a ritual. Businesses closed early on tournament days. Street performers incorporated Cuju tricks into their routines. And young boys dreaming of glory would spend hours barefoot, juggling homemade balls made of bundled cloth or pig bladders. Cuju tournaments became seasonal events, often held during the Lantern Festival or Dragon Boat Festival. The best local players were treated like celebrities, earning tips, meals, and even marriage proposals from wealthy patrons. Some were recruited into noble households to train the sons of aristocrats. A unique tradition emerged in the Song Dynasty, poetic Cuju duels. In these contests, players had to perform tricks while reciting verse, often in the style of classical Tang poetry. The combination of sport and art made Cuju distinct from any other ancient game on Earth. The earliest goals weren't nets, but holes cut into silk sheets hung between bamboo posts. Players had to kick the ball through the hole, testing both their precision and flair. Later, open nets resembling modern soccer goals were introduced. And who played? Not just warriors, but scholars, nobles, and even women. Yes, historical texts tell of imperial concubines and palace ladies playing Cuju during festivals, evidence of a game that transcended gender and class. One of the most groundbreaking aspects of Cuju was the visibility and respect granted to women players. During the Tang Dynasty, where poetry flourished and fashion reigned supreme, women weren't merely spectators, they were stars. Some formed all-female Cuju teams called Jinyu, meaning golden feathers. They trained daily in palace courtyards, developing their own signature styles, graceful, flowing, and deceptively precise. In 714 CE, a team of 5 noblewomen stunned the court by defeating the emperor's male guards in an impromptu match held during the Mid-Autumn Festival. The story, recorded in court annals, was so famous it inspired paintings and embroidery designs. One such player, Lady Wei Ying, became a legend. Known for her control and pinpoint accuracy, she could kick a ball through a hoop barely larger than a teacup from 10 meters away. Rumors said she once kicked a ball into a moving carriage as it passed by the palace wall, without touching the frame. What's striking is that these women weren't seen as curiosities. In the world of Cuju, skill trumped gender, at least for a time. Imagine, elegant robes swirling, a leather ball soaring, and the emperor himself watching from a silk-draped balcony. Cuju wasn't a free-for-all. Like today's football, it had structure. There were 2 main types of Cuju. 1. Zhu-Qiu, Team Cuju. 2 teams, usually 12 to 16 players each, competed to score goals. The rules forbade using hands, just like modern soccer. Each team had defenders and attackers. Precision passing and creative footwork were key. 2. Bai De, Performance Cuju. A non-competitive version focused on skill. Players formed a circle and tried to keep the ball in the air without letting it touch the ground. This was closer to juggling or freestyle, used for entertainment or training. Players wore special shoes with soft soles to control the ball better. Some even trained to kick with both legs simultaneously, like aerial splits. The goals were set about 30 meters apart, and the game was fast-paced and often high-scoring. Though physical contact was allowed, it was far less violent than Roman gladiatorial games or medieval football. Cuju also played an unexpected role in foreign diplomacy. When envoys from Korea, Japan, and Central Asia visited the Chinese court, they were often invited to Cuju matches. These games weren't just entertainment, they were symbolic demonstrations of Chinese culture, refinement, and power. In 643 CE, a Silla prince was so impressed by a Cuju match in Chang'an that he brought the game back to Korea. There, it evolved into a localized version known as Chukguk. Even Marco Polo, the famous Venetian explorer, wrote of ball-kicking games during his travels through Yuan, China. Though he never used the word Cuju, his descriptions of formal ball games with strict rules and trained performers mirror the sport's traditions. Through Cuju, China told the world, "We are not just warriors. We are artists, thinkers, and players." Referees, called Chojing, enforced the rules and resolved disputes. And believe it or not, cheating was rare. In Confucian China, honor mattered more than winning. But Cuju wasn't just about strength or skill. It was about rhythm, strategy, and balance, an art form as much as a sport. Cuju soon spread beyond the palace and military. In cities, merchants sponsored public matches. On festival days, commoners gathered in marketplaces to watch players perform daring stunts, kicking balls through hoops, over rooftops, or while blindfolded. Children played in the streets. Scholars wrote poems about its beauty. In 10th century Song Dynasty China, Cuju reached its golden age. Professional clubs emerged. Cuju academies taught advanced techniques. Cities like Kaifeng hosted large-scale matches in arenas packed with spectators. One famous Cuju master, Gao Qiu, became a military general, and is immortalized in the classic novel Water Margin. His skill in Cuju was so legendary, it helped elevate his political career. Cuju had become more than a game. It was a cultural phenomenon, blending martial arts, Confucian values, and artistic flair. Unlike many ancient sports, Cuju was not reserved for men. Historical records and artwork show women, particularly in the Tang and Song dynasties, actively playing Cuju. These weren't just noble women. Female entertainers and even common girls joined the fun. The Tang dynasty, 618 to 907 CE, was especially progressive. During this era, women's Cuju teams performed at festivals and royal events. Some women became so skilled, they were hired to train nobles' sons. Emperor Xuanzong of Tang once held a Cuju competition where both male and female teams played for the court's entertainment. Poetry from the time celebrates their grace, elegance, and power. This inclusiveness made Cuju unique in the ancient world. In a society often constrained by hierarchy and patriarchy, Cuju became a rare space of joy, equality, and movement. But like all golden ages, Cuju's time would come to an end. As the Song dynasty fell to the Mongols in the 13th century, the political and cultural climate shifted. The Yuan dynasty, ruled by Mongols, favored different sports, such as horse archery and wrestling. Cuju was seen as too refined, too symbolic of the fallen Han culture. Gradually, Cuju disappeared from court and faded from public life. In the Ming and Qing dynasties that followed, football-like games still existed, but none matched Cuju's former glory. It became a memory, preserved only in dusty books, fading paintings, and nostalgic poems. And then, for centuries, silence. Cuju's rediscovery in the 20th century forced historians to rethink the origins of the world's most popular sport. While modern football formalized in England in the 1800s, countless ancient societies had their own versions of the game. The Mayans played pak-ta-pak. The Greeks played episkiros. The Japanese played kamari. But Cuju stands out, not just for being the oldest, but for how organized and inclusive it was. Today, football fans from Liverpool to Lagos, from Rio to Riyadh, unknowingly echo the footsteps of a Tang Dynasty maiden or a Han soldier when they chase the ball across the pitch. When you look at the FIFA World Cup, you're not just watching a modern spectacle, you're witnessing a global echo of an ancient Chinese tradition. In the 21st century, Cuju has found new life. In 2004, FIFA officially recognized Cuju as the earliest form of football in history. The world's most popular sport had ancient Chinese roots. Today, Cuju is celebrated in cultural festivals across China. Schools teach it to students. Museums dedicate exhibitions to it. Even modern sports teams like the Chinese national football squad have honored its legacy. In the city of Zibo, Shandong Province, believed to be Cuju's birthplace, there's a Cuju museum and a field where people still play the ancient game. What began as military training over 2 millennia ago has returned, now as heritage, identity, and pride. Cuju is more than an archaeological curiosity. It is proof that football's spirit, of play, passion, and community, transcends time and geography. While modern football developed its global form in 19th century England, the roots were planted long before. Cuju was not only a sport. It was diplomacy. It was celebration. It was an expression of what it meant to be human. And perhaps, when a modern footballer strikes the ball just right, when fans roar and goals are scored, we hear the faint echoes of a game once played in silk robes under painted lanterns. A game where soldiers, scholars, women, and emperors all kicked the same ball. A game that never truly died. The next time you watch a football match, remember this. The first ball was kicked not in Europe, but in the courts of ancient China. The first goal wasn't cheered in Rio or Manchester, but in the city of Lindsay. And the first football heroes weren't wearing cleats, but robes. This was Cuju, the first football in history.